Welcome to the Frisco Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Ellis, and today we are hanging out with Brian Linder from WealthWave. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to y'all.
Appreciate you taking the time to join us. I want to dig in and talk a little bit about what you guys do, because I think people have known you for a couple of things around Frisco, but we really want them to understand what WealthWave is and what you guys do. And I think from that, we're going to spring forward into some current event conversation around that as well. But why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and the story of WealthWave?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. Yeah, you know what happens is funny. Whenever I go somewhere, they're like, Brian, we see you all the time, but what do you really do for a living? What do you actually do? And so, I do want to let people know, I've been in the financial services industry 17 years. I'm going into my 18th year. And I've owned and operated an independent agency of my own starting in '07. So the first part of that I was corporate, and the rest of it I've owned my own business in Central Texas, and it's grown to over 2,000 agents across the United States at this point. But we just moved our headquarters to Frisco last in September. So we operate right there out of the Star, right in formation. And so we're excited about expanding there. And so I guess to kind of wrap it up in a real quick nutshell, I mean, when you think of financial services, you think of companies like Merrill Lynch and Edward Jones and New York Life and Fidelity and some of these bigger firms. And basically that's what we do in one place. So we're a brokerage within WealthWave. We can represent about 300 different companies to help individuals, families, businesses, really with anything financial related between budgeting, debt management, college savings, retirement, estate planning, all those things. We do all that right there in Frisco.
All right, very good. I didn't realize you guys were quite that big, 2,000 agents.
Yes, yeah. We started with just a couple, and we expanded across, of course, a bulk of them there in Texas, probably about 1,200 here in Texas. The other 800 are spread out throughout the United States and Puerto Rico.
Okay, very good. So one of the first questions that comes to my mind is what makes you different with respect to how working with kind of middle tier clients rather than going to the really high end stuff? Like how is that different for people like us and for families in Frisco?
Yeah, that's a great question. My dad started in the industry back in 1979. He actually opened up out of his Purina feed store right there in downtown Austin, where the convention center is now today. And back then, he started a company and a vision that a business could be created in our industry, where instead of the wealthy being served by these financial advising firms, that everybody, the normal person, the coach that he coached with, the people that he sold cattle feed to, could get access to that type of management, but for them and for their own households, even though they didn't have $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 to invest. All they had was maybe $50 a month. And so fast forward now 40 years later, and that's really what separates us from most of the big firms and wirehouses is I talk to people on a daily basis that can save $10 a month, some of them $500 a month. And now some are very wealthy clients, of course, it runs the gambit, but where we have our strength is we can sit down for free with a client or a family, and we get fully on and involved in their financial household, deliver a strategy that doesn't cost a dime for the information. And so I think that's one of the benefits that we offer is I'll spend hours and hours developing a strategy, and the client doesn't have to pay me anything, and I'm just there to provide that service and education.
All right, that's good to know. So, and I think, kind of spilling over into current events, it's probably good timing for a lot of people, because there's a lot of folks that I know are feeling a lot of financial uncertainty right now. And it's probably a more important time than ever for people to have a chance to sit down with somebody to chat about what's happening right now, how their finances are, and having a game plan, I would think, to deal with that. Are you guys having conversations with people around everything that's happening with the COVID-19 and the current pandemic?
Oh, 100%. For some reason, at the end of last year, I had this vision in my mind that to move my entire business practice virtual. So we still had our physical office, and we still do meet physically with our trainees that were trained to become agents and our clients there in Frisco. But I wanted to try and do something where I could train from the office, but using Facebook Live and using Zoom. And so what's interesting about that is we had all of our platforms in place starting January 1st. So when this happened, we were ready to go already. And so I'm doing trainings and client appointments from my home. And yes, I probably spend anywhere from 5 to 10, client appointments a day right here in my living room answering that question. And the benefit I kind of have is I've when I started my business in 2002. So it was right after the 2001 downturn. And I went through 2007 as an agent and advisor. And then here we are, 2020. And I think a lot of new clients have never been through a downturn before. Some of us that are a little bit older, sure, we saw 2007, we saw the recession, but some of the millennials, they have never seen a down market. It's a 12-year up market.
Yeah.
And so they are panicking. There are a lot of questions. And even those that are Gen X or even boomers, we're in the worst spot because most of us haven't saved enough. The boomers that are getting ready to retire now just saw 30% of their 401ks and just evaporate, which was what's crazy. It was the fastest downturn. It was a 3-week drop. That's never happened in the history of the stock market where it dropped that quickly and that much in that short of time. And so, yeah, panic has ensued. And one of the things I challenge people on is you're very emotional with your money, right? When it comes to your money, it's your money. And I get that. And that's where I advise people, get an outside coach that can help you work through those things. Because in your mind, you panic, you want to sell, you don't understand, it's frustrating. But if you have someone there that's cheering you on to help you understand it, you generally will stick with it. Just like you have a physical trainer that says, keep the diet going, keep pushing the weights, eventually it'll work. The same thing happens with money. And that's where I think people like us really can add value.
So what are some of the more common questions you're getting from people right now in the current climate?
I mean, right now it's how can I stop the bleeding? Or the flip side is, what would you suggest I get into, right? Because for most common investors, you really don't have access to buying the market low, selling it high, unless you have your own account that you're trading in. And most people don't have the financial education, the financial literacy to actually trade on their own, or would I advise them to without some education and training? And so that's where, I get a lot of the questions. So my first answer to the ones that are scared is, listen, we've seen this before. It's a different chapter in the same book. Markets go down, markets come up. But when panic ensues, your reaction is to pull out of the market, park it at the bank, park it in a cash or money market account, which is fine. At this point, you've already lost it, right? So doing that doesn't really help you at this point. But the trick is now when do you go back in? If you waited this long, and if you don't know how to manage the markets and you don't have an educational background, you may miss it. So what I saw happen in 2007 was clients panicking, pulling out, and then when the markets rebounded, they waited and waited and waited. And it was like 2012, 2013 before they went back in the market. So they missed a very big upswing. In my opinion, this upswing coming after this is all settled down will be one of the fastest upswings we've ever seen in the market, just like we saw it being one of the fastest downturns. So that's where I say don't panic. If you have cash on the sidelines, this is a great opportunity to buy. It's like all the jeans in the store right now are 30 to 40% off. Why wouldn't you go in and buy the jeans while they're on sale? Except for these jeans are going to become more valuable down the road, not less valuable. So those are the main things is what do I do? How do I protect it? And then unfortunately, what I'm getting a lot of is I'm not hearing from anybody. I have a 401k at work. I haven't heard from my advisor. What can I do? And so I would say reach out. There's all kinds of people like me. I'm not saying I have the market cornered on financial advising. So reach out. There's all kinds of great professionals in Frisco that are there to answer your phone and give you some help. And so I would just reach out. If you feel lost, just reach out to one of us and we'll help you.
Are there other resources that you guys have available, like even before somebody talks to you or picks up the phone to have a call or a Zoom, as we're doing today? Are there other resources that you guys have available that people can go to start kind of learning more about you and how you guys operate?
Absolutely. There's a couple ones. The first one I challenge people to do is go to our website, texaswealthwave.com, and take a look at what's on there. On one of the screens on there focuses on the WealthWave division of our firm. And on that, we actually do a series of client-focused events. Like we just did one last Friday on the importance of long-term care, how it works, how to use it, how to add it to your financial strategy. The next one coming up in the first week of April is how to eliminate your student loan. If you have a federal student loan, there are some new rules on the books that you can maybe get that wiped out, 100% wiped out. So we have a professional going to give some advice on that. We also have one mid-April on understanding your 401k. So there's all kinds of education events. What we want to become education provider for financial services. We don't want to sell you anything. We don't want to have to be pushy about stuff. We just want the education of how money works out there as much as possible. Because I believe an educated consumer is a good consumer, right? They make good buying decisions no matter what they're buying. And so the flip side is we also have a book. It's the book called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. So it's written to help people understand just simple financial concepts that weren't taught in schools, weren't taught in college. like compounding interest, simple versus compound interest, why you should start saving early, the effects of losses on your accounts, just concepts that we think people should know that just haven't been taught to them. It's in a book that takes maybe 45 minutes to read. If they're interested in that, they just go to our website, send us a quick email. We'll mail that to them for free right now during the coronavirus. If they're stuck in quarantine, we'll ship them a book and they can read it and learn some things while they're sitting there stuck at home.
That's a very generous offer. I may take you up on that myself. But, one of the things that strikes me about what you're describing is it's definitely good for people to have opportunities to be educated, to understand better what's happening. And yet, I don't want people to get the impression that even for a moment that replaces someone like yourself that does what WealthWave does, because there are so many financial tools and so many opportunities. You mentioned some of the student loan things and probably SBA loans that are going to be part of the stimulus package, and like things that those of us that aren't in this on a day-to-day basis have almost no hope of understanding in depth, because you just can't keep up with all of it and know what's out there. And I've got to believe that that's where working with somebody like you really is a huge help to those of us that have other day jobs and other things that we have to focus on a daily basis.
Oh, I would agree 100%. I challenge people all the time to think this through with me. Look how far your cell phone has come since 2009. Look how far video gaming has come since the Atari to virtual reality. Technology and time has changed every industry we've been in, your car, your refrigerator. So it has affected financial products just the same. The hard part is you can't see them, touch them, feel them. So no one really knows what's going on. And since they don't have the educational background, they don't study it. So that's where a person like me comes in. I mean, do I know how a carburetor works? No. Do I know what it is? Sure. Am I going to fix it? Absolutely not. I'm going to leave that to a professional, right? And I also equate it to medical doctors. If you were going into a medical doctor and you go and say, man, my shoulder hurts, can you just give me a shot for my shoulder? The doctor's going to say, well, wait a second. I need to examine all of you. It might be your knee that's causing you shoulder problems. We need to fix your knee, not your shoulder. So if someone comes to me and says, Brian, I need you to fix my 401k. And I say, well, it might be your debt that's causing the problem. It might be something else. So I need to do a full review. And that's where I think working with a professional comes into play, is we're going to look at the whole aspect of your financial strategy and see what's the issue. And then our firm, luckily, we represent 300 different carriers. So we can go find the best solution, in my opinion, for what that need might be.
That's fantastic. So is there any, other than reaching out and talking to you guys and taking advantage of some of those resources, is there any other advice you would have for people right now in the current climate, just taking into consideration COVID-19 and what's happening?
Yes, I would just be prudent, right? I mean, I'm a student of humanity, right? I'm a student of crises and joys and ups and downs. Don't get too high with the highs. Don't get too low with the lows. I keep telling clients, this too shall pass. It's tough, and we have loved ones. And so while you're quarantined, what a great opportunity to pull out your finances, to look at what you've got. You may have life insurance. You may not know what it is or how it works. Pull it out. Have a discussion with your spouse if you're married. Let's get, people just don't talk about the money. And since you're siloed and stuck at home, what a great time to look that over and have discussions and estate planning. And do we need this for our kids? Do we need this for our grandkids? And start having those discussions first, and start finding out what your questions are, and then get a game plan. And I think a lot of people just don't reflect on that. And so a lot of clients, which is crazy to me, will hand me like 6 sealed envelopes and say, hey, this is my 401k statement or my IRA statement. We don't open them anymore because we're just scared to look at them. So they stick their head in the sand and just hope that they're going to look up and retire at 60 or 65. So my thing is, you don't need to understand it in detail, but what you do need to have is a working idea of what you want your money to do for you. Now, I know you work as hard for your money as I do, and I want it to work as hard for me as I work for it. And so that's what we want challenge people to do, is start thinking, what do you want your money to do? And if it's savings, if it's a new home, if it's a car, if it's debt, whatever it might be, then how do I reach out to someone and get an actual written game plan on how to make that come true? And the reason I say written is just like everything else in life. Once you see it in your mind, you write it down and you put it into action, the odds of it happening go dramatically up versus just, oh yeah, I need to get out of debt. And then you get $1,200 from the government and you'll blow that again on something else that you don't need, right?
Yeah, that new Xbox I've been eyeing for a while, right? That's solid advice. As as people are thinking about this stuff now and wanting to reach out to you, first of all, what's the best way for them to do that? If they want to get in touch with you guys, they want to set something up, where do they begin?
I would go to texaswealthwave.com. You can right through there on almost every page. You can contact us. It also links over to our Facebook page, which we put a lot of articles on. I do a good job, I think, of scrubbing all the news and trying to find the ones that are relevant to middle-income families, moms, dads, divorced moms, divorced dads, business owners. There's all kinds of information out there, and it's good that we kind of help sift through that. So if you jump on our Facebook page, you can connect with us there. A lot of the community events we do. For instance, we were going to do a volleyball tournament here at the end of April to raise money for Frisco Fast Packs. I'm not sure that will happen. It depends on what happens. And then we have a golf tournament in October in conjunction with NBCF. And so that you can plug in there as well. And then just on there is my information. My cell phone, I think, is on there. And so one of the things I pride myself on is just call me on my cell. I literally work, from about 8:30 in the morning until 1 in the morning, and just I'm always available. I'm a dad. I'm a business owner. So if you have a question, I want to answer it. And so that's what I would do. Just go to that page, and that's got all our info. Just reach out, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
All right, that sounds good. Well, I'm going to encourage people not to call you at 1 o'clock in the morning. You might go to bed a little earlier once in a while, but hope that you guys are doing well through all of this as well, and holding up as we're all kind of locked away in our homes. What kind of projects do you have going on that are keeping you busy outside of work?
Well, between Bronwyn and myself, we have 5 kids, so that is a little cumbersome. But finally, you joke about that, but my garage is literally packed full with just junk. And so, thank goodness it'll give me some time to clean that out and finally put the Christmas decorations away. And yeah, but that's it. I'm not very handy. I don't put up curtains. I don't build stuff. So that's all I got is clean out the garage. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I clean up and organize things, but if something needs fixed or hung or whatever, that's probably not my domain. Though I do a little bit of that occasionally. Well, I'm glad you guys are holding up. 5 is a lot. You got a full household, so wish you well. Thank you very much.
In the sanity department there. And any other last thoughts you want to leave us with before we sign off?
The last thing I'll touch on is we also are looking for advisors. So, one of the things that I don't know people know about our industry is it's shrinking. The average age of an agent right now is 59 years old, and we're losing between 6,000 and 10,000 advisors every year. That's including the life insurance industry. So right now in Texas, there's only about 35,000 licensed agents in the entire state of Texas. And so most of them are boomers and retiring out. So our industry is shrinking every year as the need for what we do is expanding. And so one of the things I spend a lot of my time on is training and bringing reps in from inside the industry, outside the industry. If you know anybody that's ever wanted a career in financial services, they can work with us part-time to even see if it's something that they want to do. We do all the trainings now virtually, and then we'll do them live again once we're up and running. But we would love anybody that's ever wanted to be in the industry to reach out and have a conversation if it makes sense to move forward with them. But we need people to help us because the need's only going to grow with the boomers hitting retirement, Xers hitting their savings years, and now millennials starting to get into the savings careers. We need more folks to help us out. Well,
that's a great opportunity. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we spread the word on that. And Brian, again, love what you guys are doing. Love that you're open to working with such a variety of people, no matter what kind of stage they may be at financially. In many cases, I think it's, those that are still earlier on in that journey that probably benefit the most from getting, set up and things set up properly and having a longer term game plan. So definitely want to encourage anybody that's got questions, concerns, whether it's finances in general or specific to dealing with finances in the current pandemic. Guys, reach out. It's texaswealthwave.com. Brian's number's on there, so you can pick up the phone and call him if you want to. Please just try to do it during normal business hours. And again, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And, good luck through all of this.
Sure. Hey, I appreciate you. Thanks for your time, Scott, man. I really had a great time with y'all.
Thank you.